Once upon a time, in a lively city, there was a skilled doctor named Gulliver. When work became hard to find, Gulliver decided to venture beyond the familiar, joining the crew of a large ship. Excited for the journey, he embraced life on the open sea, filled with endless waves and boundless skies. For the first few days, Gulliver enjoyed the gentle breeze and the rhythm of ship life. But one night, the weather turned fierce, and a terrible storm engulfed the ship. The waves grew enormous, tossing the ship wildly until, with a mighty crash, it tipped over. In the chaos, Gulliver and a few others managed to grab hold of a small rowboat just before the ship sank beneath the waves. They floated in the dark, clinging to hope. But as the hours passed, the rowboat was struck by another wave, scattering everyone into the ocean. Gulliver struggled to keep afloat until, finally, the currents carried him to the shore of an unfamiliar land. Exhausted, Gulliver collapsed on the sand and drifted into a deep sleep. When he awoke, he found himself tightly bound from head to toe. Confused, he looked around and gasped. Tiny people, no bigger than his palm, surrounded him, each staring with a mixture of wonder and fear. These tiny beings, thinking Gulliver was a giant invader, had tied him up for their own protection. He tried to move, but winced as he felt the sting of tiny arrows landing on his skin. Despite their size, the arrows made their point. "Please don't hurt me," he called, his voice booming over the little villagers. "I mean you no harm." The villagers paused, astonished that he could speak. After some days passed, and the villagers saw he was harmless, they offered him food and water. Soon after, they decided to take him to their king in their small town, Liliput. Gulliver was carefully strapped to a cart pulled by hundreds of little horses, and together, they made their way to the city. There, he was housed in the largest building, but even that required him to crawl to fit inside. The king, seeing Gulliver's peaceful nature, welcomed him and invited him to stay in Lilliput. Gulliver was grateful and agreed, on the condition he would help the people whenever he could. Soon, he became part of the village, assisting in various tasks, from carrying water to helping with construction projects. But one day, Gulliver learned of a grave threat. The neighboring kingdom planned to attack Lilliput and was preparing for war. Knowing how much the little people trusted him, Gulliver approached the king. "If you allow me, your majesty, I can help defend Lilliput," he offered. The king, grateful for his bravery, accepted the offer. That night, Gulliver gathered a long, sturdy piece of wire. When the enemy ships were gathered in the bay, he snuck across the shore, attached the wire to their ships, and with surprising ease, pulled them all back to Lilliput. The enemy soldiers, shocked by the sight of the giant, were too stunned to resist. The villagers rejoiced, and the king rewarded Gulliver for his bravery. After this victory, Gulliver continued to earn the king's trust. But as he spent more time with the king, some of the advisors grew jealous. They whispered to the king that Gulliver might try to take the throne, sowing seeds of doubt. One day, the king confronted Gulliver, announcing his decision. Gulliver was to be punished not with death, but with blindness, and he would be forbidden to visit the town. A loyal servant secretly informed Gulliver of the king's decision, and saddened by this turn of events, Gulliver realized his time in Lilliput was over. Late that night, he slipped away, leaving behind the people he had grown fond of. Traveling under the stars, he reached the neighboring kingdom, where he spotted a familiar rowboat, his own from the shipwreck. With the help of the neighboring people, he repaired the boat, preparing to return home with a heart full of gratitude. Soon, Gulliver set sail once more, bidding farewell to the friends he'd made. After days on the ocean, he spotted a large ship on the horizon. Waving his arms, he called out, "Help! Over here!" The sailors spotted him and brought him aboard, listening in awe as he told his tale. Gulliver knew his family awaited him, but he couldn't help but wonder what other adventures lay in the vast world beyond. And so, the doctor returned home, with stories of little people, brave kings, and battles won, knowing that while his journey might be over for now, the world held endless possibilities. Have you ever wondered what secrets goblins might hide? In this story, two sisters may have stumbled upon some of these mysteries, either by chance or design. But is it a blessing or a curse? Let's find out with Funtoon. The two sisters, orphaned at a young age, lived in neighboring houses. The elder sister, Remy, was selfish and scheming. Her laziness only made her situation worse, leaving her poorer each day. Meanwhile, her kind and hardworking younger sister, Julia, gradually grew wealthier and gained respect in the village. One year, the village suffered from a terrible drought, leaving the river nearly dry and the villagers struggling without water. Julia, always generous, did all she could to help her neighbors, winning their admiration even more. Watching this, Remy grew increasingly envious, thinking, "How unfair that she prospers while I'm left with nothing." Driven by jealousy, Remy devised a plan. That day, she paid a visit to Julia's house, pretending to show concern. Julia welcomed her in warmly, offering her a meal. Remy said, "Julia, with the drought, I'm struggling more than ever financially. I have an idea, though. Why don't we work together on something? Julia, could you lend me some money? Once I finish my business venture, I'll repay you." Julia, happy to see her sister's determination to change, agreed. "Sure, Remy. I'll even go with you to the market." The two sisters gathered the finest goods, loaded them onto the cart, and headed to the market. However, as they neared a mountain by the village, Remy saw an opportunity to carry out a sinister plan. "I'm tired, Julia," Remy said. "Can we rest for a bit?" Julia agreed, not suspecting her sister's true intentions. As Julia looked down from the mountain, Remy took advantage of her moment of defenselessness and pushed her down the cliff. "Farewell, dear sister. Your fortune will be mine," she thought, convinced Julia was gone. Returning to the village, Remy pretended to grieve, telling everyone of Julia's unfortunate passing and claiming her sister's belongings. Meanwhile, Julia, though injured from the fall, survived thanks to the trees below, which broke her fall. "I can't believe Remy would betray me like this," she thought, feeling a surge of determination. "I won't give up." Struggling with her injuries, Julia began to crawl, determined to find a way out. Julia struggled through the dense forest, her pace painfully slow. Night had fallen by the time she finally emerged from the trees. Exhausted, she sank onto a large rock, unable to go any farther. Just before she lost consciousness, she thought, "I can't drag myself another step." When she awoke, it was midnight, and the forest was eerily quiet until she heard voices nearby. Hidden in the shadows were two goblins chatting, unaware of her presence. "It's been a while, brother," one of them said. They continued talking, sharing secrets they'd uncovered in the forest. Julia listened carefully as their conversation grew more intriguing. "Lately, I discovered a great secret," one goblin boasted. "See this ancient tree we're under? Its leaves can heal any injury. Just chew a few leaves, put them on the wound, and it will heal completely." The other goblins seemed impressed. "Good to know. I also found something interesting. You know the village down in the valley? They're in a terrible drought. Little do they know that there's a massive underground water source at the top of the mountain, right beside a big rock." The goblin continued. "However, the water source is blocked by a large golden chest buried right beside it. That's why it doesn't flow into the river below. If someone were to dig up that chest, the water would rush down to the village, giving them all the water they need. And not just water. They'd also find an endless supply of gold." "Endless gold? Really?" the other goblin asked in amazement. "Yes, I've taken some myself, and it never runs out," the first goblin replied proudly. "But no one else knows about it but you and me, so let's keep it our secret." It wasn't until morning that the goblins finally disappeared. Julia, who had overheard everything, waited patiently until they were gone. With a joyful heart, she dragged herself to the ancient tree, picked some leaves, chewed them, and applied them to her injured leg. To her amazement, her broken leg healed almost instantly. In awe, Julia exclaimed, "I can walk again." Then she remembered the second secret. If she could access the underground water, it would relieve the village's suffering. Determined, she climbed to the mountain's peak where the goblins had mentioned the water source. There, by a large rock, she noticed freshly dug soil. This was the spot. Digging into the ground, Julia uncovered a chest brimming with gold. As she lifted it, water burst forth, cascading down into a river and saving the village. Overjoyed, Julia thought, even though Remy wronged me, she's still my sister. I won't seek revenge. Instead, I'll encourage her to live more kindly. Remy was stunned, crying out, "No, Julia is dead. This must be her spirit, coming for revenge. Please stay away." Julia replied, "Remy, I'm alive and well. Though you hurt me deeply, I can't ignore our bond as sisters. I'll give you a chance. Be kind, work hard, and turn away from your cruel ways." Trembling, Remy said, "I see my mistakes now, Julia. Please forgive me. But how did you survive the fall?" Julia shared the story of the goblin's secrets and how she had healed and discovered the hidden gold. When Remy saw the golden chest, she believed Julia's story completely, and her greed began to stir once more. Remy's fear vanished as greed took over. Those goblins must be hiding even more secrets. Maybe I could find another chest of gold. Driven by this thought, she quickly followed Julia's instructions, sneaking into the forest to the very spot Julia had encountered the goblins. Concealing herself behind a rock, Remy eagerly waited. Late that night, the two goblins appeared by the old tree, muttering angrily. "Someone found out about our secret and went to the mountain to dig up the gold. Now the villagers have water, too. If I ever find out who did it, they'll pay dearly." Growing impatient, Remy accidentally made a noise. The goblins quickly noticed and whispered to each other, "Someone's hiding nearby. Let's set a trap. We'll pretend there's still another chest of gold on top of the mountain." There's still another chest of gold on top of the mountain. This time, it's hidden beneath a dry tree at the top of the mountain. Just follow my directions, and you'll find it. Remy, thrilled by the idea of another treasure, listened closely, memorizing every word. As soon as the goblins vanished into the night, she stealthily followed their instructions, her mind consumed with the thought of finding that hidden chest. Following the goblins' directions, Remy climbed to the mountain's peak and quickly located the bare tree. She eagerly dug beneath it, uncovering a chest just as they'd described. Smiling with anticipation, she slowly lifted the lid, expecting gold. But instead, the two goblins appeared, glaring at her. "So, you were spying on us and dared to steal our treasure," one goblin sneered. "Now, let's see if you can escape from us." Remy panicked, pleading, "No, it wasn't me. Please trust me. The real thief is my sister." The goblins exchanged glances and scoffed. "You even betray your own sister? How shameful." Ignoring her pleas, they leapt forward, teaching Remy a harsh lesson. Bruised and defeated, Remy wandered off, eventually leaving the land, forever paying the price for her greed and dishonesty. Meanwhile, Julia shared her newfound wealth with the villagers, helping them rebuild their lives. Respected and cherished by all, she lived the rest of her life in peace and happiness, surrounded by a grateful community. Once upon a time, in a kingdom, two brothers lived side by side in neighboring houses. The elder brother, Ryan, was a wealthy man, residing with his wife, Claire, in a grand and luxurious home. His younger brother, Matteo, led a simple life in a small, worn-out wooden house. Despite his hard work, Matteo only earned enough to get by. Ryan, unfortunately, was quite selfish and rarely cared for his brother. Whenever Matteo asked for help, Ryan would respond with annoyance. "Ryan, my roof has a huge hole, but I don't have the money to fix it. Could you help?" Matteo would ask, but Ryan would only sigh in frustration. "You're here for money again? Will you ever manage on your own?" he'd grumble, reluctantly handing over some coins. Matteo, however, was kind-hearted and always willing to lend a hand. When Ryan needed help, Mateo never hesitated. This kindness made Claire feel embarrassed for her husband. She often urged Ryan to show more compassion toward his brother, but Ryan dismissed her advice. It's his life, he'd say. He has to take care of himself. While he distanced himself from Mateo, Ryan spent freely on his two best friends, Jax and Lucas. They frequently partied and gambled together, with Ryan showing off his generosity. The stingier he was with Mateo, the more he indulged his friends. Jax and Lucas, seeing this, often plotted to take advantage of his wealth. "We're lucky to be friends with such a wealthy man," they whispered to each other. "We'd be foolish not to make the most of it." Claire, sensing the insincerity in Jax and Lucas, urged Ryan to keep his distance. "You should stay away from those men," she warned. "They're only here because of your money. If it were gone, so would they be." But Ryan, dismissing her concerns, assured her, "They're good friends, not just passers-by. Don't try to tear us apart." At that time, the kingdom was ruled by a powerful monarch who cherished his most prized possession, a golden horse that gleamed and shimmered, captivating all who saw it. The king adored this magnificent creature, considering it the most beautiful being in the world. "My golden horse," he would say, "there's none as magnificent as you." One day, the king was taking his cherished golden horse for a stroll in the vast palace garden. He had been working tirelessly and, feeling exhausted, he decided to take a brief nap. During his sleep, the horse managed to slip free from its leash, leapt over the garden fence, and wandered off into the jungle. When the king awoke, he was alarmed to find his precious deer missing. "My golden horse, where could it have gone?" he exclaimed, distressed. Immediately, he issued an order. "Anyone who finds and safely returns the golden deer will receive a great reward. However, anyone who harms it will face severe punishment." News of the king's decree quickly spread throughout the kingdom, sparking excitement and curiosity among the people. When the announcement reached Ryan's village, everyone was abuzz about the king's golden deer. Ryan, eager to try his luck, grabbed his bow and arrows and set out into the jungle to search. After a long day of searching, Ryan was astonished to spot the golden horse grazing peacefully. Familiar with humans, the horse showed no fear when it saw him, even playfully interacting with him. Seizing the chance, Ryan secretly brought the horse home, taking great care to ensure no one saw him. "Claire, you won't believe it. I found the king's golden horse. What luck! Let's prepare a grand feast and invite my friends Jax and Lucas to celebrate," Ryan announced excitedly. Hearing this, Claire quickly thought of a way to test Ryan's friends. Why not use this opportunity to test Jax and Lucas? "If they're true friends, I'll never question your friendship again," she suggested. Intrigued, Ryan agreed.
"You just need to do what I told you like this."
Following Claire's advice, he disguised himself as a poor, disheveled man and set off to meet his friends. "Surely Jax and Lucas will help me just as they do when we're having fun together," he thought confidently. Approaching their homes, Ryan put on an air of desperation. "Jax, Lucas, I'm in trouble. I accidentally killed the king's golden horse. You two are my closest friends. Please help me hide this secret." Initially, Jax and Lucas were skeptical, unsure if Ryan was serious. Upon noticing the golden hairs on Ryan's hand, Jax and Lucas became convinced of his fabricated tale. Fearing they might be dragged into the trouble, they both declined to help. "Sorry, Ryan, I have an urgent issue at home. I can't assist you," one said. "My apologies, friend, I can't help either," the other added. They quickly vanished, leaving Ryan stunned. He returned home, disheartened, and shared the experience with his wife. You see, I was right about them. They've abandoned you when you needed them most, Claire remarked. Now, it's time you turn to your younger brother, Matteo. Ryan then headed to Matteo's house, where he was warmly greeted. Matteo, I need your help, Ryan pleaded. I accidentally killed the king's horse. Do you have any idea how we can hide this without anyone finding out? Don't worry, brother, Matteo replied. We'll need to bury the horse quickly and leave the area before the king finds out. Matteo was deeply concerned, yet without hesitation, he rushed to aid Ryan in escaping the impending trouble. Claire was already waiting with a table set full of delicious food. And surprisingly, the king's golden horse was calmly standing there. Realizing that it was all part of Claire's plan, Matteo sighed with relief. So that's what it was. I don't have to worry anymore, he said. Ryan, can you see it now? Do you still want to spend time with those so-called friends of yours when your own brother immediately came to help you? What if they were actually busy? Ryan questioned. Well, there's a way to put them to the test, Claire suggested. Following her advice, Ryan and Matteo devised a plan. They placed a heavy stone inside a large trunk and carried it together. They purposely took the trunk past a tavern where Jax and Lucas happened to be. As expected, the two scheming friends secretly followed them. When they arrived at a secluded area in the jungle, Ryan and Matteo paused, carefully looking around to make sure no one was watching. They then began to dig a deep hole, pretending to bury the trunk. Jack and Lucas were hiding behind a tree, observing everything. They excitedly whispered to each other. So it's true that Ryan killed the king's horse. What should we do now? We're lucky to have seen where they buried the trunk. We can use this information to force them to pay us a hefty sum of money. Without wasting time, Jack and Lucas rushed to Ryan's house and began threatening him. We know everything. You killed the king's prized horse. You'd better give us a bag of gold, and we might consider keeping it a secret, they demanded. Just as Claire had expected, the two friends revealed their true colors. Ryan was furious. Jack, Lucas, I was so wrong about you both. I thought you were my best friends. I won't give you any money. Do what you want. If that's your decision, Ryan, then be prepared to face the king, they retorted. The next day, Jack and Lucas went straight to the king and reported the incident. Your Majesty, we saw the Ryan brothers kill your beloved horse. They hid its body inside a trunk and buried it in the jungle. We'll take you to the exact spot, and they won't be able to deny it anymore.
Guards, bring the Ryan. Has brother here for me?
A moment later, Ryan and Matteo were brought in front of the king. Is it true that you guys killed my golden horse and buried it in the jungle?
Your Majesty, we didn't do anything. They accused us without any evidence.
Yes, Your Majesty, if you just listen from one side of the story and then punish us, then we could not find your actions convincing.
Your Majesty, we witnessed everything. We have evidence. We will take you to that place, so they can't deny it anymore.
The king, along with the guards, followed Jack and Lucas to the site. The guards quickly dug up the trunk, as instructed by the two schemers. But when the trunk was opened, there was nothing inside but a large stone. Please forgive us, Your Majesty, they stammered in disbelief. We were certain we saw them bury the trunk here. At that moment, Claire appeared, leading the king's precious horse. The king was overjoyed to see his horse safe and sound, while Jack and Lucas were left speechless. The king was overjoyed to see his beloved horse alive. You two have been looking after it? He asked Ryan and Matteo. Yes, Your Majesty. We're sorry for not informing you sooner, Ryan said. The king forgave them and ordered the arrest of Jack and Lucas for their deceit. He thanked Ryan, Matteo, and Claire for rescuing the horse. Ryan apologized to Matteo for his past behavior. Thanks to Claire's plan, Ryan learned who his true friends were. The brothers reunited, built a beautiful home, and lived happily ever after.